I've been asked to speak to you today about the benefits of single-sex education. Many of the arguments that I'll make apply to both boys and girls. But I'm a teacher and advisor in an all-girls school, so I'm particularly aware of the benefits of single-sex schooling for girls. Of course, I understand that choosing the right kind of education for a child is a personal choice, and I certainly respect that choice. I also recognize that there are some strong arguments against single-sex schooling and in favor of coeducation. So in the first part of my lecture, I'd like to discuss 3 drawbacks of all-girls schools. First of all, critics of all-girls schools argue that the separation of the sexes seems old-fashioned. They point out in the United States, single-sex education was much more popular at the beginning of the 20th century, before the feminist movement that began in the early 1960s. These critics say that having separate schools for boys and girls goes against the aims and the goal of feminist and liberal educators, which is to provide fairness, to make sure boys and girls have the same educational opportunities and are treated in the same way. Secondly, the critics say that single-sex schools are artificial. In single-sex schools, boys and girls are separated and can't develop the ability to interact with one another or feel comfortable in each other's company. These critics say that in single-sex schools, children never get to learn about gender differences. In coeducational settings, of course, they get to interact on a daily basis. But in single-sex schools, they not only miss out on the chance to sit in class together, but neither do they have lunch together, play sports together, or join clubs together. In other words, and this is the third drawback, single-sex schools don't offer children a smooth transition into the real world after school, the adult world, where men and women live together. In single-sex schools, boys and girls cannot become prepared for a world in which they will compete, work, play, and live together as adults. Now, definitely, these are serious arguments against separating girls from boys in school, but there are pros and cons to any situation. And in this case, I believe that the advantages of single-sex education outweigh the disadvantages. And that's why I'm in favor of all girls and all boys schools. In the second part of the lecture, I'd like to focus on the 2 main reasons why I support single-sex education for girls in particular. It values girls' unique qualities, and it helps girls develop self-confidence.